Steve, Ryan, hey man, still there. Yeah, I'm just about to put up the banners actually. This is the place we did it last time I was here, and some of you might remember that. Pretty loud activity here, but I am obviously without Jason's stand. I'm going to be attaching them to this wall here. Now, last time I was here, I felt like there would be no issue with me putting them up here for a little while, but I can't guarantee that. And of course, there is the, as ever, putting nitric acid gas. So, folks right next to me, a spiritual discipline called Falun Gong. So, there's some ladies here doing peaceful protests right next to where I want to put my banners up, but let's do it. I've got a little bit of space. I don't know if I should just move over there rather. It will be a little bit out of the eye line here, but because this is a bit of a thoroughfare, however, quite a lot of people do come that way, so I might move down there. Now, just from a technical point of view, I kind of rushed out this morning, and in my rush, didn't grab the battery pack, so the stream can't be as long as I'd hoped. I mean, if it's going epic, then I might try and get a battery pack, but the car park charge here is insane. So let's get this set up, shall we? How's things going in your world? Hope you've been feeling this moon energy and know that this stuff, whatever's going on for us, because I assume stuff is going on for you too, for our growth. Even the insanity, whatever insanity is being wrought in the world, it's for our growth or something.
You can really not like someone and not wish them harm. I'm the same with my brother. I don't like him.
There's the moon. There's the moon up there. I don't know if you're able to see it. It's just a small crescent, and it's know if you can see that.
Exactly. We need to single file. People who are together need to.
Wow, I can't believe, sorry, I can't believe she's getting married. How is she arty?
Studied the science?
Sorry?
You studied some science?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know that most about science, at least according to school, is based on theory.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Supposition, which is the foundation upon which relativity is built. And gravity is built on if or must be attracting something else to something else. Therefore, we have an input and data. We did. What can you do?
I can prove gravity.
In the medium
One says
level-
that when something has mass, it has to.
When you change the movement, you change the equation of density, and the boat floats.
You're not gonna convince me. But
So I'm not trying to convince you.
No,
But your sense is telling you that your body is not spinning. It's spinning. You can't prove it. You can't prove that it's just going over. Actually, when you measure 100 meters, 100 miles of water, and it was the formula for curvature, which none of you guys have taught. 8 inches per mile squared. Oh, trigonometry. Then you find the curvature, 10 miles. So we can make observations in a small we can debunk the ship is going over the horizon with a powerful wind.
I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate
It's an
your
electromagnetic
thoughts.
Earth. We are the center of the universe. They want us to do it. I've been here for 47 years of my life. And now I'm out there telling you guys.
I'm sure we've heard about a lot of things. I don't think it's
That's okay. Water's still level though.
Generalising.
Young scientist there. My first conversation of the day was quite convincing. Let's see if I can take a photo there, yes. Yeah, man.
Good. Good.
Yeah, Earth is flat. Sea is level. The sea is level.
Yeah.
One sea in the world. It's level. There's no ball. We can't live on a ball. We can't evolve from a monkey. So I've got my banners up for now. I'm in Cambridge. You didn't see that.
Phone's on the table.
But my signal's good here. I'm just gonna...
No sabía lo que nos íbamos a encontrar.
1864. Like a frisbee. Yeah. Have you ever seen water form on the side of a ball? No. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. Condensation, yes, but once it gets heavy, it's going to run down the side. You know that. You know that. Water won't form anything but level when it rests. It takes the shape of the container, yes.
It's a squared inverse law. It's gravitational. It's an atomic level attractive force. So the more atoms that are next to each other, the greater the force is.
The atomic force and nuclear forces, rather the gravitational force, is less than the electromagnetic force. So everything is being attracted, yes, by some electromagnetism, but not necessarily by Newtonian gravity.
Well, I wish you...
Have a good day. Yeah, a little crowd there. Oh, no, losing them. I got a flyer for you guys, some information. Water's always going to find its level. You got a question, mate?
Thank you.
Yeah? You South African? No? No. All right, have a nice day. As you can see, it's hard for people to read. Uncomfortable truth. And then we fall back into what we do. Brainwashed to repeat. Very brainwashed.
Taxation and commercial law.
Oh yeah. Like water. Like water. Earth is flat. Oh yes sir. It's like the sea is level. The sea is level. Can't live on a ball.
Always reckon I drive on.
Sweating already. It's very hot. Today. These could be a little bit straighter.
There's a restaurant.
Not holding as many faces here as I would hope. Let's see how it goes. We are in Cambridge. People are on holiday. Earth is flat, folks. I got some information on that. Water is always going to find level. La Terra plana, Tierra plata. Earth is flat, not a globe. No globo. Globo deception. Globo deception. Here's my info. Yeah. Why am I? This is a building you're not allowed to really go into, and of course, it was made by people with horse and cart who are really on the brink of survival, starvation, hardship, but for reasons always attributed to either slavery or piety, they build these magnificent... Yes, you can, my friend.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Bon voyage. You can take one, give it to your friend if you want. Yeah. It's question mark. Question mark.
You know what? I think you're right. I generally do.
Cool, man. I've been looking at it for 8 years. I know for sure. I've been looking for 8 years. I used to believe. True. You will. There's some arrows here just to kind of help guide people's eyes. Saturday today. So the university is not back, I don't think. They haven't finished their summer recess or beginning of the new school year. Yeah, I wonder if I have to reconsider where my position is, because it's nice to get them up on here, but at the same time, not if I can't attract people's attention. What do you think, guys? How are you doing? Down blocks. They're watching the live. Maybe. Oh, you're welcome. He's welcome. Thanks, man. Yusuf is alive and well in Cambridge. My rights of land. Yeah, there's definitely some darkness in our world. I don't know how. I'm trying to teach my son yesterday in school how to throw it to fake. People panicking. That's interesting. So I'm telling him to get arrested for talking to him. No, it doesn't matter. Don't get arrested or talking. 100% fact. Tony's right. Tony's right. The police will walk past all day long. They know they can't do this. Imagine if they had to arrest a child for riding on the sidewalk. There are adults who get all like Nazi about it, but in the main, it's pretty easy, unproblematic. So I recommend it because I don't think. I mean, in other countries, people forget that you're not actually causing any damage. Yeah, I might go for this piece of railing here, just to try and catch a few more eyes. NASA fake space, you know that? NASA, spelled with a Z. Some guy came from he's a friend of some actor, Captain Pete, but I'm not sure now. He walked away before I could get it again. Well, I could get kids love Arsenal. Why is he writing? They're very honest about that. That's what they.
And she had like.
Scientists love it. Water's always going to find level. I don't know you believe it. There's such smugness you see in the faces sometimes. Such smugness. Even though we can't prove we're moving, the earth is moving, water is curving, we can't prove these things, everybody believes it because we're taught it when we're 6 years old. But you try and measure empirically as a scientist the curvature over water surfaces, it's always level. No matter how large a body we can test ourselves over. always find it to be level. And we know instinctively, we know ships can't go downhill. Ships do not sail downhill. They have to lock them down through off a mountain. So how are we getting back uphill if we've gone downhill? Or is the horizon just an optical effect, an optical horizon rather than a physical horizon? So oftentimes you can see a ship go over the horizon at 4 or 5 miles, but with a powerful camera you can make that 10 or 12 miles and it still looks like it's level. Or if you change your perspective or your angle of resolution, go higher, well, you see that ship for 20 miles and it still looks to be on a level body of water, but the people on the beach are convinced that it's gone over some curve. So this is not spinning, and science can't prove it. Even Einstein admitted that.
Not super sure about that.
Oh yeah, Einstein said we won't find any earthbound experiment to prove Earth is spinning. You know, so because you see in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the best scientists in the world, Nicholson, Morley, and Gale, and these guys for 40 years they did the interferometer experiment and couldn't figure out why there was no, speed, movement, and we're meant to be moving through the universe at like 30 miles a second or something. And they couldn't find any movement. They couldn't find Earth spinning. So it's more like a philosophical idea that we're actually spinning, and it's not the sun that's simply moving over our heads, as we see. People say sunrise, right? We say sunrise, just because the sun is rising, not us rolling towards it. And if it is rolling, then which direction is it rolling?
They say sunrise is like you're here and then you see the sunrise.
Yeah, because the sun is rising. Rising, like if you saw a plane, if you were say on quite a high hill or something, and you saw a 747 cruising towards you, it would appear to be rising. So with the clouds in the distance are touching the horizon, but as you look up, this is a great example is a hot air balloon. If you're standing under a hot air balloon, you're looking 90 degrees up, but if you're 3 or 4 miles away from that, you're sort of looking at it down on the horizon already. Yes. It hasn't changed its height. It's just your resolution on that image is very different. And so what we think is that, it's these things that are moving over our heads, which is what the ancients believed. And they worked out, celestial navigation for shipping based on stars that were just simply doing the same pattern year after year, day after day. So yeah, the idea that we're spinning can't be proven. The idea that water is going to cling to the underside of a ball and we can walk underneath there, even though the gyroscope doesn't tell you that you've gone down and underneath or anything like that. That's all stuff you were taught before you could really think for yourself. And then your teachers the same. Your teachers simply went to school. They were good at that. They answered A. They got A, first class, and they became teachers of it. Doesn't mean it's true. Same with the religions. Just because you believe in a particular religion and you teach it to your flock and your children doesn't make it true. It's your belief, yes. But the same is true with this theory of relativity and gravity and so on. Things are heavy in this atmosphere and they fall. If they're light, like a helium balloon or hot air, it rises. In water, it's a different equation because more things float in water. Like we float in water, an apple floats in water, a football floats in water because it's buoyant in that environment. But all of those things fall in this thin air. So that's all we have in our world is that light things go up, heavy things go down. And the higher you go, the colder it gets, which is weird because hot air is rising, but it gets cold. And the lower you go, even though cold air sinks, it gets hot under our feet. We've only drilled 7 miles into the ground, and as far as we can tell from leaked documents, the highest they've ever been is like 100 kilometers towards the Kármán line. It was an operation in 1956, I think now, 4-year operation where they tried to fire nukes up into the sky, the Americans and the Russians. And the footage of that is compelling. It looks like something splattering against what could be a roof. But we can't get out of this place, and they don't want us to know that, because if this place was created, then we are the center of creation. And your life here is much more than just some Darwinian evolved slime comes to lucky consciousness and happy to be a slave and pay taxes and all that sort of thing, rather than, wow, you might be a divine essence of whatever this creation is, and your eternal expression is being punctuated by this one life sim that you're living right now. You'll leave this life and you'll go back to your higher self, but will you have achieved the quest that you came on? The quest I on is surely to learn about who you are, rather than be distracted by deceptions from outside of nature, non-natural, non-natural experience. We are natural beings. We are electromagnetic beings. We come from love, and we're meant to return to that. I think we're meant to return to that in this lifetime. But obviously, when you die, you will take whatever lessons you've had and you will bring them to your higher self. Some people say, I don't know that this is right, but some people say we reincarnate until we get to having learned what we're meant to be learning. But I don't know that to be true. I do know for sure that we've been lied to by pretty much everything that we call establishment. From the
I don't know.
royals.
I respectfully disagree, but I see that you're passionate.
I appreciate your listening. Would you
Yeah.
like my information?
Yeah, for sure.
Have a nice holiday.
You too.
A scientist. I can always tell by the grin on their face. Come have a question with me, man. I'm so sure. We're not the busiest patch, but we'll do what we can. Water's always going to find level. Water always finds level. You can't live on a ball as much as you want to smirk about it. Can't live on a ball. Do you want to fly?
Thank you.
Sure, man. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
See more of those around recently. Water's always going to find level, and we can't prove we're spinning. Did you know that? There's no science experiment that actually demonstrates that the Earth is moving at 1,000 miles an hour.
No, movement is an independent.
Yeah, but the problem is that we're in an open system, not a closed system. If we were in a train or a plane, I would agree with you, but we're open. Gravity is not a train carriage.
No.
Gravity is a theory, and the idea that it can contain, atmosphere. Helium balloon doesn't care for gravity while it's down here.
No, it does. It's just buoyancy. It's like things
That's-
floating.
Exactly, it's buoyancy.
But
we're
gravity affects buoyancy.
Well, what if you just said, well, everything has the same sort of, wind, what's it called, friction aside, everything's going to fall at the same rate. But that doesn't then mean, okay, I'm going to say that I can walk underneath the ball because of that.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, because gravity is the thing that's pulling everything towards center mass. Well, in a flat Earth environment, everything is either going up or down depending on its buoyancy. So if we fill this area with water, we would go up. But
So what pulls things down?
its own mass or density in this medium. Again, you change the medium, there's a different rule applies. We've got this pretty cool image here. You've probably seen it. You sound a scientific guy, but this one here, where we can take all these different liquids and we can float them on top of each other. And not only that, we can take objects that will only float on that particular layer and go no further. Because these are all in different states of density and in environments that change in density or viscosity. So gravity doesn't have to be a factor. You can kind of get rid of gravity in our cosmology. See, gravity, or the theory, remember it is a theory.
I mean, theory is just provable by evidence.
People say that to me all the time, but that's what you were
that's what
taught
it
in
means.
school. So no, but let's
It's
say
also what I studied.
let's say does water run downhill?
Yeah.
Water run downhill.
Depends on
So
the
water. Well, no, if it was down, and there wasn't anything to interrupt the water or to motivate it back up the hill, water will always run downhill. You know that. Everybody knows that, although you may want not to.
Well, I mean, water falls down if
course.
there's something pushing against it. As Newton
Well,
said, equal forces.
well,
then it'll.
Okay,
move
I'd
it
agree.
right.
Well, I'd agree to have to be lifted in the first place in hydrology or in the hydrology process. Say you've got water being lifted up into the atmosphere and then it falls back down again. The same with the Newton apple on the head. Water was lifted up by the tree, 150 grams of water, and then once it broke its stem, that 150 grams expressed itself back to the ground. If I put a swimming pool halfway or a bucket of water halfway in that journey, it would stop there, wouldn't it? And then float on that. So it's really only going to
Yeah,
express the
you
energy.
can get condensation from the air. It's how dehumidifies.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
we're in a moist environment, which is
Yeah.
why a lot of people say, "Oh, if the Earth is flat, why can't we see New York?" Because of that same answer, that there is a moisture in our environment, and that moisture is not being drawn down. It's just sort of, it's moving around in the environment unless acted upon. So gravity. I don't have a problem with something falling, and we can call it gravity. We can say 9.8 meters a second squared or whatever. We can say all of that stuff. But to then say, because of that theory, I'm now walking underneath a ball and not knowing it. My gyroscope is not recording it. Well, if we live on a globe,
Yeah.
then in South Africa we're 90 degrees to the perpendicular here. So where you're lying on the floor now, you'd be actually standing in Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Because like nothing in your body has told you that you've changed your perpendicular. If you went on a fun fair
Well, no,
ride,
because,
you
well, it's
know
a
that.
sphere. It's well, I mean, an oblate spheroid, which is similar. But if you're standing at any point, and because it's a three-dimensional sphere, you will have perpendicular. It's a geometric fact of the sphere.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen a perpendicular or even a flat line.
We know what tangent is.
Yeah. Yes.
Tangent comes off perpendicular to any
Yeah.
arc.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what point you take the arc.
Yeah.
It's still
Yeah. But
tangential.
when I look at my watch or my wall clock or that clock up there, there's no straight lines, bro. Everything is curving all the time. If you look at a football and think that's made up of straight lines, it's because you've been brainwashed by Minecraft. Things do not, circles do
saying-
not have straight lines.
No, but I'm
Although we
saying if you,
mathematically
no, but you
do
can
that.
make, if you take any tangential point coming off the peak of an arc, you can have a tangent and a perpendicular line. So it doesn't matter where you are on that perpendicular arc.
Yeah.
Well, on that arc, you have a perpendicular to the arc, which is towards the center of the sphere.
But now my senses in my body are super good. You know, yours too. But when you were 6 years old, you were told if you travel down around the side of the globe, you won't notice it. So if you take a device like a
Like a
spirit
gyroscope.
level or a gyroscope, and it still doesn't show you that you've changed your perpendicular, you're having to make other excuses. Say, oh, well, gravity, again, just because of buoyancy and density, gravity is now pulling my gyroscope in a way that wouldn't, when I tested my gyroscope on a table at home and I turned it like this, then I can see it's holding that original table setting.
Well, yeah, because it's staying. It's a tangential
Yeah.
device,
Yeah.
so it stays tangential to the sphere.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you move it over the sphere; it'll move.
Would you
If
be,
you move the sphere under it, it won't move.
all right, would you be able to hold, this is a theory that you've just given me, would you be able to hold the possibility in your mind that actually that works perfectly on a flat plane?
I mean, yeah, it's a gyroscope that stays perpendicular to the gravity, so it doesn't matter what shape it'll be on. It's not particularly.
Well,
But
when-
you
when
can use it on a sphere to triangulate position.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're not sure about that. It's the same with celestial navigation. When they use the what do they call it? I forget now. But the
Sextant.
sextant. When they use that, they're also creating like a flat line. Even this, I don't agree with flat earthers, by the way, because this is the globe version of trigonometry, and this line here for creating the tangent is so long. This is what is it? 40,000 kilometers or 25,000 miles around. And so this line here is hundreds of miles long. In reality, if I had to put this tangent or this line onto this known Earth, and it was that size of a globe, then this line would be hundreds of miles long, which is, of course, what we see over hundreds of miles is that things are flat, yes. Like the Suez Canal is 120 miles long, and it's provably level from one end to the other.
Well, no, I mean, but that uses the same principle of perpendicularity to a sphere. So it doesn't matter whether you'll always have that tangential effect. So you can draw a flat line anywhere on this sphere.
So what level, at what point do you say I should see curvature, measurable curvature, not the observational curvature?
Yeah, measurable curves.
Yeah, what point? I mean, what is your, given your scientific background or your experience? If I said to you, I'm your child one day, and I said, my bath is level, Daddy, and, the lake around the house is level. So at what point am I going to see, or measure, I should say, curve as you claim it to be?
Well, I mean, in the same way, if you take a microscope on, let's say, a balloon, you can get incredibly close, and it'll still look flat if you get to a very, very small sample.
But Daddy, you haven't given me any answer there. That makes no sense to me.
it is cut off. You just
Okay, but-
such a small degree, you can't see it in something like a very small area. But
Okay,
if you take, for example, a very long road
Yeah.
or the Suez Canal, you can see.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Even at 120 miles, it's provably engineered to be a level.
Well, no, because if you take a laser perpendicular to it and you shine it, you'll see a drop or an increase in height from the other end of the canal.
You'll know it's. Is it Boyle's law? What's the law? Where light will bend through the water.
Several.
So we already agreed that the atmosphere is water. So using a laser for that
No, but you can
can be
make
problematic.
You can make a calculated because it acts like a prism. You can make a calculated effect of the energetic dispersion in the water to find
Yeah.
the curve you're looking for,
Okay.
and you can factor that in.
Okay.
You can use it through specific humidity and also the.
Okay. So, well, there will be, I mean, obviously, if over 100 miles, there will be variables in the humidity, so it would be quite a feat. But you know what, the Americans...
Well, I mean, you can make relatively good
Yeah.
models using it.
Yeah.
And you can test it.
Yeah.
And you can test that within a tolerance, there is still a significant jump, way bigger than you would expect to see just on the curvature of the water drop.
So how much curvature would there be in 100 miles?
I don't know the specific numbers, but
See, we're not taught this formula at school, because if you were taught this formula, then you applied that to your life experience, you would be like me. I was 47, I'm like 8 inches per mile squared. I never heard this. This
8
is
inches
20.
per mile squared.
It's not mine. Spherical trigonometry of a sphere. This is the Pythagorean theorem for curvature for a ball with a radius of 3959, which is what we are on. This is not mine. You can Google this. You can go, what is the curvature formula for the distance between here and there, here in France or whatever. You can get all of that on Google, and it's not my maths. This is
Such a strange unit, 1 mile squared. Because that doesn't mean a drop of 8 inches per mile. That'd be
that it's an increasing. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
one
you
of the
sure
reasons why I don't agree with it, because I think that if we did live on a globe,
Well, I
and
mean,
this was
that wouldn't give you any of the data to say curvature. That'll be probably a polar coordinate system.
there's a lot of people in the sort of defending the globe theory who stand absolutely by this formula.
Oh, I'm sure it works out something, but that's not a.
Well, they will also say
that's
that, of
not
course, it doesn't make sense, because if your ship is going down here, eventually it's sort of falling down a perpendicular drop, which it can't be. You know, I know you said Oblate spheroid, but every image we've ever had from NASA, up until deGrasse Tyson, or recently they started talking about Oblate spheroid, up until then everybody said it was a perfect sphere. The
I mean,
images
it's pretty close.
yeah, I mean, this is. You know, you'd have to be like a bit of a ninny to go, oh no, that's not a sphere, mate. That's not a sphere. That would be a circle.
Pretty much in the same way that any ball is incredibly hard to say it's a sphere, in that it's not quite a sphere, but you can, like
Yeah.
a tennis ball is not explicitly a sphere because there will be defects in it.
Uh-huh.
But if you take, for example, the biggest differences in height on the Earth's surface, like Mariana Trench and Everest, it's only 13 miles out.
Yeah.
So it'd be an incredible. If you had it scaled, you wouldn't be able to feel absurd.
That's what I heard said, that if I used to repeat the same thing, that it would be smoother than a billiard ball
Yeah.
if you reduce it down in size. So, you know, putting long lines that are flat. But anyway, the point is that there is this formula that when we're told that the ship is going down, and everybody agrees the ship is going down when it leaves the beach. So what is the number? You know, because if it's a 10-meter high ship,
You can work it out.
then I should, Well, this is the formula that is offered. I'm not saying it's
I don't. Well, that's not a curvature formula in the explicit way that you may be using. In that, that's not 8 inches per mile squared is not a formula for if you move this much, it'll drop this much. That's that'll be some kind of projection on a sphere surface.
So, because to me, I was saying just now, I think that actually on a sphere, then the curvature would be pretty much the same wherever you landed. If you were a mosquito and you landed on a football or a little plastic sphere, then the curvature would be pretty much the same. Now, I know on our Earth we have these land masses which don't curve at that sort of rate, and that's another conundrum for the globe. But we can, for example, go across England with a topographical map and see that we're going up a certain height to the middle of the country, and then down a certain height to the west coast of the country. Now, I'm going to go up as much as I go down. I intelligently know that. I could hike it. I could get cross sections from Google of America and do exactly the same thing and show that over 3,000 miles, I'm going to go up a certain amount and down exactly the same
Yeah, but
amount.
that's just hills. If you take land area average, you can. Well, I mean, it's a very simple experiment you can do. Is if you take a laser and you point it and you measure the drop. I mean, you can take into account the factors like the bend from water droplets and things like that.
Yeah.
You can get a drop per mile of how much.
Yeah,
it
and
is.
even temperature apparently the air temperature has a factor on
Yeah,
this.
'cause
The
it'll
flat
change the
earthers have
density.
been trying hard to do this kind of laser experiment, and so it's difficult
That's
sometimes.
That's
the
the simple one, but you can if you have more advanced or more sensitive technology, you don't need quite as long a distance to show a more obvious difference. You can do it over something as
Okay.
quite short.
Well, the Americans have got a weapon called the railgun. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, the magnetized.
It's an electromagnetic weapon, and it shoots at Mach 15, and it can paint a target at 100 miles, ship to ship. It's not curving.
Well, I mean, theoretically, it doesn't work yet.
They claim it works. And I
Yeah,
mean,
so they
but
claim the technology is viable to work. They said
Yeah.
they don't have a functional weapon.
They didn't tell us about the B-52 until they were retiring the
True,
B-52.
but-
So we don't really know.
That
We
is
claim,
true.
you know, but we know that they have a weapon that is rated for. And if you don't like that example, I can say that the longest we can see a lighthouse is about 60 miles. And I know obviously it's a little bit higher above the ground and so on, so it's going to be able to be seen further. But you know, even 300 feet of height is nothing compared to what 60 miles of curvature is on this globe.
Yeah.
So we're seeing things, and guys, recently a guy went up into the highest point of Wales and took a photograph of the Alps at 700 miles away, and you can mark the points off and their distances apart on Google Maps and so on. So it's hard to refute that and say it's just clouds.
you know, well, no, so you'll get an amount of curvature and things like that. But why can you then not see Australia?
Well, that is about things shrinking and the atmosphere. You know, we do not have.
Well, you can measure
X-ray
how
vision.
much that'll make a difference, but
Well, one of the things about the atmospheric occlusion is the, you know, it's moisture and cloud and what have you and everything in the way, you know. So a guy took an infrared camera in America. He took it up in a plane in California, and he took a photograph from Los Angeles all the way down into Mexico, and they can map that as 1,000 miles following the coastline that they're able to see. Now, this makes sense on the flat Earth, impossible on the globe. Neil deGrasse
'cause
Tyson.
You can
Neil deGrasse Tyson says that even the Red Bull jump, Felix Baumgartner, wasn't high enough to see curvature. What you were looking at there was fisheye lens, trickery.
Oh yeah, no, most images are.
So most people come to me and say, "Oh, have you not been in a plane?" Because in a plane you can see curvature. Well,
Well, that's just optical.
it's an optical effect,
Yeah.
and we're looking through 3 panes of glass. One of them flexed perspex. So we're not really getting a true observation. And I know pilots who say we make no allowance whatsoever for curvature, nor do we make allowance for the Earth moving. We treat the Earth, and even their handbook says treat the Earth as though it's flat and not moving. Your plane doesn't have to worry whether it's an east or west heading or north south.
You can bring a compass into a plane and track it yourself. In that you will see they do make allowances for curvature, because otherwise they just go straight on a flat map.
Oh no, curvature is corners. It's not the same.
Sorry to
Yes,
be
fine.
rude, I just need to answer this one question.
Yeah.
What about Apollo missions? Do you think it was all fakery?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the 12 Apollo
You see, as you say that, right? This makes you a nutter to most people, right?
Yeah.
But when I say about Apollo, I say, right, they couldn't have gone because they didn't have the technology, and the photos are dodgy. But the whole thing is, you're saying about the Earth, you know, the sun and everything.
It's a grand deception. Most people on Earth in 1950 would have been in two minds about whether we lived on a globe, but the moon landing settled it for them. Would you like to take my flyer? Yeah. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks for the questions. Yeah, most people on Earth
I've got to.
would have believed that we lived on a flat Earth.
I can't see the bloody time on this phone. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
You believe it is not flat or flat?
I know. I think that the water is level. That it has to be flat.
The world is flat.
Well, we live inside of a globe, not on the outside of it. As I say to people, nature always puts a skin around its fruit. We have to have a skin around us. We can't be on the
No,
outside
we
of
have
the
a
fruit.
skin. It's the ozone layer.
That's not a skin. That's gas. See, in what we were brainwashed to believe is that gas can coalesce and be somehow a protective barrier. If I removed someone's skin, or if orange's skin, it's going to start to decay quite quickly in this atmosphere. So it needs a skin. We must have a skin. And thermodynamics, just like that sparkling water that you got there, thermodynamics demands you must contain it. Otherwise, you will lose the pressure. Once you pop that, the pressure starts to dissipate out of that drink that you've got. So,
All right, I've got to go now
all
because
right,
I'm
well,
meeting
have
a
a good
friend.
day. Would you like a fly?
No, thank you,
All right. Take care.
because I can't get my head around it all.
That's all right. But you they never went to the moon. You know there's space suits never been tested in a vacuum
Listen,
chamber, right?
listen. Why don't I believe they went to the moon?
Right.
Because it was a race. The Russians, kept quiet about 3 cosmonauts dying for 20 odd years. They just said, they came down as if they were sleeping, right? So the Russians lie. They're lying and subterfuge against each other, yeah?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't agree with that. I think
Until
they're in
the point
same
where
club.
they needed each other, so they did the old handshake thing and all that, and now they're all going up together because there's no race anymore. It was all about supremacy, because that.
Let me give you something else to go away and think about,
Yeah.
and that is that it was designed to give us the idea that it was an us and them scenario. Because if your neighbor is your enemy, then you will be willing to go to war against him or do
Like
things against
9/11,
him.
create
Exactly,
the
yes.
threat and then
the
we'll
Muslims
save
thing.
you. We'll
Yeah.
save
Yeah,
you
yeah,
from
yeah.
the threat.
Yeah, and we're saving you from the
And that's-
Russians again. You know, this is what
But
the narrative is today.
It's all
you
part
know.
of controlling people
Yeah,
and their
absolutely.
minds. It's
Absolutely.
all control.
But at the very top table, Putin and the Queen or whatever, they all sit down for lunch. Yes, they do.
Take care.
All the best. See more of those guys around these days. Hi, Earth is flat. Few conversations, but not busy enough for me. Think about it. You can't live on the outside of a ball. Nature will prove that. It's always got a skin. Everything's got a skin. Nature. Theory. You know they've never put a man in a vacuum chamber, ever, in a spacesuit.
What?
Yeah, you can look it up yourself.
In a what though?
In a vacuum chamber.
No, because you die.
Yeah, well, if we're going into a spacewalk in the
Yeah.
vacuum of space, you
Yeah.
want to be able to rate your suit to manage at least that level of vacuum, right?
Yeah, so they didn't put him in a vacuum chamber. They put him in a pressurized container.
No, vacuum is not a pressurized container. A swimming pool that they do the spacewalks
what I
in
said.
is a pressurized container, but a vacuum is the complete opposite.
Yeah. it is.
One is a pushing in, crushing, and the other was a drawing out.
No, vacuums don't pull out.
You've not
No,
used a
they
vacuum
don't.
cleaner before?
Pressure doesn't crush either. It's the difference.
You've not used a vacuum cleaner before?
Yes, that's not how vacuum cleaners work though. It's not the pressure, it's the pressure differences.
So when they put a balloon, so have you ever seen them launch one of those helium balloons up into the sky?
The weather balloons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see how big they get?
Yeah.
Why?
Because there's a pressure difference. It's not the absolute
The pressure
pressures.
difference is going away, but eventually there is none such that it's a vacuum 10 to the minus 23 torr, which apparently the vacuum chamber they can create on Earth is 10 to the minus 6 torr. So it's a lot weaker than what they claim they're going in, and yet they can't go there. So the Earth's moving, right? The Earth's spinning, and that hasn't been proven either. Did you know that?
Why does the sun move?
Because the sun moves.
No, because we move.
You answered the question straight away. The sun moves because the sun moves. That's a good one. But the idea that we're moving
No, the sun
to
appears
create
to
that
move
movement,
to us because the Earth
it's like sitting at a football stadium and saying, "Whoa, look, the stadium just moved." No, that was the ball going over your head.
moves. Yeah, so it depends on your reference frame. So if you have like a little trolley and you put a ball in it, you could roll the thing along and the ball will move, and the ball is staying still, but you're moving the trolley. However, if you focus on the ball, but that's because we were focusing on the trolley. If you look at the ball, then the trolley moves. It depends on your reference frame. So the sun appears to move, and it could be either because the sun is actually moving or
Yeah.
because the earth is actually moving.
Yeah, we're
So,
opening.
and it's because the earth actually moves.
Well, we're opening our minds to the possibility that it's the latter, the former, which is what people used to say.
Yeah, I think it's great to question stuff.
Yeah, we've got to keep it in mind. And the thing is that with relativity, which is what gives us the ability to float around the Earth on a blanket of time and space, these are theories that we can't really prove ourselves. We can't prove them at all.
That's the
in
point of a
reality.
theory, though. That's the definition of a theory, though.
Yeah. So, but in theory, if after 100 years of the best science minds being paid off to try and prove this theory, can't come
Yeah.
up with any proof of it, you've got to say,
No, but
maybe,
there's
maybe
evidence.
we're not floating. Maybe we're not moving at all. Maybe the Earth is stationary and we don't need gravity for us to walk underneath. We don't need evolution for us to become eventually from apes and all of that stuff. By the way, I was an atheist just 8 years ago. I believed in all
What's
the
your
apes.
religion now?
I have no religion.
Are you still an atheist?
No, I think that there is a creator. But
Okay.
The creator is us. And we are an expression of the creator. In the same way that a little cell of orange inside of the orange fruit is orange. It's just much smaller in magnificence. or in magnitude.
Okay.
So I think that there is a creator, but we are the essence of that creator.
Yeah.
And the system here gives us religions and science that diminishes or demeans that, so that we don't find our own true path in life. That's my kind of quick summary on it, as to what would be the point of it. Because I had religious studies as a kid. I rejected all of that, and then I was much more into science. I raised older children to university level on heliocentrism, on evolution, on all of these theories, and then I discovered that things like 9/11 are not what they tell you on the news. Things like the Vietnam War was started by the Americans, firing on themselves. There was an operation called Northwoods where the Americans presented to Kennedy this option of blowing up a plane full of people on a way to Cuba and blaming it on Fidel Castro. This came into the public eye some years ago. So you start to realize that, wow, the governments are actually in collusion. And then I actually was still in support of Tony Blair when he said weapons of mass destruction, we must go and destroy Saddam Hussein. Turns out that was a lie. Now, I don't trust the government in any way, and they've given us our education. And one of the first things they teach you is that Jesus died for your sins and that you live on a spinning marble in space, in a vacuum of space. And you build your science on that belief without further question. And now, and of course all of us are taught that, the ancients thought there was flat earth, you'd probably fall off the edge and all of that sort of stuff. We're all taught to ridicule the flat earth concept right from the get-go. And now I say, having studied a little bit of quantum physics, I understand the electromagnetic nature of this world, and I think that we might be inside of a sphere, but certainly not on the outside of it. That just doesn't, it breaks all laws of physics. Thermodynamics, the idea that we're spinning and we're not falling off, all of these things are not what would happen in reality. We need to, if we build a mini town, we need to do it on a flat surface. If we build anything, we do it on a flat surface. We play football, we do it on a flat surface.
It curves a little bit.
A football pitch. Yeah, maybe
There's
it's
still a slight curvature at small distances. If you go up to the top of there, you can see the curvature of the Earth.
In fact, Neil deGrasse Tyson says that even Felix Baumgartner at 140,000 feet, or whatever he was with that Red Bull jump, he wasn't high enough to see curvature. He's certainly not high enough in a plane.
You can see drops in the horizon.
Yeah, and the
so
thing
there's
is,
a horizon of drops. So
the thing is that your vision, when you can see 360 degrees, your vision inscribes a circle. Would you agree?
No.
So you can look at 10 miles in this distance, and 10 miles behind you, 10 miles to the side, 10 miles to the side, you're inscribing a circle. Unless the weather is different in one part of that shot, right? But basically you're looking around you in a circle. So we're not seeing curvature, and if we are seeing curvature, my man, let's measure it. Because good science demands measurement.
You can measure it.
What would be the means of measurement?
So you could have 2 points. You could have, so how tall do you reckon that is? 30, 40 meters?
I'll give you 40, maybe.
Yeah. So you could build another one of those over there.
Yeah.
And if you have like a laser, for example,
Yes.
it will just go straight.
Okay.
And they should meet.
Okay. Well,
they
assuming you've started with on the level, same, height above sea level, yeah?
So you could do that at various distances, and you realise that as you get further away from the point of the laser, it drops because we live on a space.
Okay, or it could be that the laser's dropping because of refraction.
No, not right now.
No.
You don't think that there's a diffraction of light through the air?
No, because the curvature of the Earth is non-linear, whereas refraction is like a linear process as well. So it was, if you measure it, you'd realise that it would perhaps drop by a certain amount over a particular distance, and then perhaps double over maybe another distance, and then if it was refraction, then it would scale linearly, whereas with curvature, it doesn't scale linearly.
Okay, so we've done experiments. People who've sort of been on the flat Earth thing have done experiments, and they can see mirror flashes, 10 miles, 20 miles. The longest we can see a lighthouse is 60 miles, something like that. We can take photographs now, long-range photographs, over hundreds of miles over the sea that's meant to be curving, of things that should be far below the ridge of the curvature of the water, according to what we're taught. So no, it's a complex one, and what the laser one, because of there being a bending, I would rather do this thing of saying to someone, if I go 10 miles away from you and you flash on your laser, if I can see the laser pointer, then I'm able to see you, even though I can't see you at night or whatever. I can't obviously see you, but if I can see the flash of the laser, then but it shouldn't have to strike something in the distance, because the accuracy of my laser over 5 or 10 miles, I cannot be sure of. And atmospheric conditions apparently do bend more or less depending on cold and moisture and so on, that light. So it's a bit of a, it's not the perfect test. So,
There's no such thing as the perfect test, which is why none of there's no such thing as the perfect test. You can't be sure of the accuracy of anything. But what you can do is collect lots of data from lots of different sources and various means, and if they all appear to support one particular thing, then that might be right. I'm not saying it is right, but chances are it probably is.
Okay, so if I got you like a 500 milliliter bottle of water, like that, or drink, and I settled it just like you have, and I found that once the liquid comes to rest, it doesn't matter which way you hold the bottle, once the liquid comes to rest, it will form a level surface.
Do you know why? Because we're over a very short distance. The Earth is flat over a very short distance. But when you're perhaps like, miles, then there is a curvature, because the Earth's pretty big.
Okay, so this is the formula for curvature according to the globe science. And at 10 miles, they say it's 800 inches of curvature, and 100 miles, there's 80,000 inches of curvature, which is over a mile of curvature, according to this. And that's the length of the Suez Canal, which has no curvature. I mean that it's flat, just like in your bottle. Now this is what we don't do in science today. Is that we say that if I have a 500 milliliter bottle and a 50-meter swimming pool and a 500-meter lake, and all of these I can demonstrate to be level.
They're all level.
They're all level. Have you heard of the term specular reflection?
Specular reflection.
Yes. That's when you look down on a still lake and you see the perfect mirror image of the scenery either above it or in the distance, the trees and the clouds and so on. Not possible if that was convexed. Only possible when it's a perfect level lake. Well, have you ever been to the House of Horrors where they got those bended mirrors?
No.
Well, when you bend a mirror, you start to stretch. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we see no distortion over large lakes. This is just a matter of fact that we see no distortion over a large lake. So to claim that there's curvature over that,
it's because you're projecting the image back onto a surface that's the same size as the lake, so there's not going to be any distortion, whereas with mirrors you're distorting the image into a slightly different size space, so it's going to look different.
They make mirrors on a bed of oil.
If you do it on a small surface, then they're essentially flat, because the Earth is flat over a small area.
That's impossible if it's a sphere.
Over a small distance, the path is flat, but if you kept walking it, Well,
that's why we like using water, because obviously over land you get undulation, so we can, it's hard to say that.
Water does it as well.
But, the Bolivian salt flats are known as the world's largest mirror. When it rains, you get this thousands of square kilometers of just surface water.
Yeah.
And that is still level, but over bodies of water, we see no curvature. And just because we're not seeing it at the small level, the medium level, anything that I can test. So then to claim beyond where you can test, that's magic. Beyond where I can measure it, that's got to be a form of spellcraft to say, no, you don't go and look for it. But you should go and look for it, actually. We should be able to say, hey, you own a ship. And at 10 miles or 20 miles, that ship will all have gone over the curvature, depending on the height of the ship. We should know that as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But we've taken photographs of things like oil rigs that are 10 miles off the coast, and it's all there, the whole of the oil rig, and then there's still horizon behind it.
Yeah.
And according to Google, 5 or 7 miles is where the horizon is, and everything should be going over the edge of that. It's just it's an optical effect. It's not a physical effect. That's why we should go and measure that. And keep an open mind about, wow, is it possible they deceived us about even this?
I think it's great to question stuff, question your beliefs.
Question your beliefs, yeah. And and the thing is, having come from an atheistic background myself, mindset, is that I wanted to question everything, and yet I wasn't questioning this stuff. I was still happy with the missing link for evolution. I was still happy with theories of billions of miles, and we can see exoplanets, and we're going to land on these things that are out, these gas giants or these rock giants that are out in space. We're going to do all of these things. I believed all of that. And now I see, that I was completely trick.
Beliefs have changed.
My belief. Well, I mean, I have to accept as a flat Earth proponent that there is lots I don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly how the sun and moon work, how the lights work, what they are. But I would study cymatics and sonoluminescence. These are two things that I think in mainstream science explain what we see when we're looking at the stars.
Yeah.
But,
It's interesting.
yeah.
I think it's great to question them.
Cool. We'll take my flyer
So-
and
I'm
keep an
okay,
open mind.
thanks. But I think, yeah, it's
You don't
great
need to save the
question-
planet because we don't live on a planet. There's no climate change to worry about. when
Great to
you're a
question
flat earther.
things, but still have mutual respect for other people
Yeah.
who have different
Yeah.
beliefs. So.
Have a good day, man. You guys. How's the? It's a bit bright here for me. So yeah, there's a lot of chat going on, and I can't read it. 'Cause it's the thing. Hopefully, it's all kosher. Above board. I might move this one. You see that guy? Very, very.
你以后啊就会知道这个事儿对你有多大损害。
Chinese are an interesting group of people. Where do they come from? Why do they look so different to us? I suppose you could say that about Africans, some Africans. The Africans have got heart, man. They got some real spirit. Whereas the Chinese, they regard us as though we're.
Let's go find that swimming pool and then we'll get in the water.
Delhi counter.
As I said earlier, I left my battery pack in my haste to get away this morning. I left my battery pack behind, so I'm on limited
Do you know what? I've not been in there.
time now. So I'm eager to get some conversations. Yeah. How are you guys keeping? I do want to do something that's more inclusive, you know, where we could have a Zoom call and people could join in and come have a chat. You know, chill. Yeah, pious people. Simple people. With horse and carriage. Let's see, we can move this one. I'm sweating well today. Apparently we got one more day of warm weather and I'm hoping to go to Stand in the Park event with UNHD tomorrow in Sarah. Which is in there, near their neck of the woods. So we'll see. These banners have been here to Cambridge quite a few years now because they first came here I think in 2018 on their Globe Light tour, for the Flat Earth tour 2018.
Pazar günü sanıyordum oğlum. Oğlum buraya dünya bir tırkıtı var.
some conversations going. Earth is flat, guys. Not a spinning globe. Earth is flat, bro. On a ball. You don't live on a ball. Earth is flat. Did you know that?
So,
Earth is flat. Water will always find level.
I guess so, eh?
Can't live on a globe.
Are we looking at donut?
Electromagnetic, yeah. We live on a donut. Answer of the Earth is flat. This is what's going on here next to me. A traditional practice to improve mind and body, truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. It's hard to argue against that, but apparently it's not allowed in communist England, China. Yeah, I'm feeling like I need more people. It's not, I'll put this one here.
Yeah, so wherever you are, I mean, that's pretty close. Imagine coming from like York.
Churchill.
Yeah,
For me, it's fine. But imagine like Churchill. Or what's that one? Claire's right by the library. There was one by the. Yeah. Is that the one by the? You know where they have the gym? They have the gym here. Where? Down that way. There was. I was like, oh. Maybe. Maybe. I was like, I can't imagine. Good.
Yeah, you'd have to follow the.
okay.
Take a flight. Keep an open mind. In person. Good day. Scorcher today.
Absolutely.
Scorcher. I'm busy doing some refurbishments work. So what is this called? St. James's or something, or some King College or something like that.
Yeah, that was all like green.
Of course, it cost them millions to do. A few flecks of paint. Oh, last time I was here, I saw two bicycles collide right here. I remember that now. Just hearing that sound. It's a bit of a hazard, really. Bicycles should be banned. Of course, I'm joking. Earth is flat, no spinning ball. Nearly stopped. See, seeing it too late. Seeing it too late. Student. Was in there. Hot on science at this Cambridge University in town.
It's just fun as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it flat?
Oh, it's Earth.
Oh yeah, I wrote that. Because you know that water's when we're going to find a level. And smart water's bad for you, did you know that? You should look at the videos on smart water. Run electrolysis through that. It'll go black. Like Coke. Drink distilled water.
Depending on what you want to do in the lab, you might go to this place. You don't have to, there are jobs in the lab.
Selfie. Hey, you want to take one home with you, man?
Thanks, mate.
Waterboy's going to find level. You can't live on a ball. You can't walk on a ball. Everyone's on top. Everyone's on top. Hello, man. You Sikh? Yeah. Sikhs know the truth that we've been lied to about who we are and where we are in the world. This thing that we live on a ball, it's not how the Sikhs, ancient cultures, the Vedics and so on, they used to say we live in like on a plane of existence and there are 7 heavens or 7 levels of that. But it's not that it's a ball, it's that we are inside of a system that might look like a ball, but we can't be on the outside. All nature's fruit, everything that's living must have a skin. Apples and pears and bananas and trees, even an egg. And I think we live inside of an egg. We live inside a container. Where we live, the sea is the level, and the ground is above that sea level that we can walk on.
Well, I find it's a very difficult subject, you see, because we ruining this earth, we're spoiling it.
When you say we, you don't mean yourself, obviously. I don't think you're spoiling it.
I think, well, no, I feel quite good in the sense that a lot of our actions, at least they're not harmful to the planet. We don't eat meat, we don't drink. Okay, because meat.
You drink water. When you say you don't drink, you mean alcohol.
Don't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's good to you. Actually, it doesn't really. The Earth doesn't really care if you're a drunk or not. I mean, obviously, mankind cares, but.
Well, no. The point I was making is the way we're living is not sustainable. Because I feel everybody should be free to choose what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a coach driver, part-time coach driver, and in London, even here, we've got people with their own stalls set up. And this guy approached me. I said, "Look, my friend," I said, "I don't care if a bloke worships a tree." I said, I said, as long as he respects other people.
Yeah.
Okay. And he kept on. I don't know if you ever go to all that London. See, we don't do that, Sikhs. But what we do, have you heard of called langar?
No.
We provide free food.
Oh yeah, okay.
You must have heard
I have had some free food from Sikhs.
You know Sikh place of worship?
Yeah.
Every Sikh place of worship, it's
Gurdwara.
Gurdwara. It's almost like an obligation. You get people who nobody's paid. Very few people are paid.
Yeah.
If you take an average Gurdwara where there's a sizable community, people start going to the kitchen at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
To start
preparing.
Some people just come in and they'll wash things out, they'll wash the floor and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's all they want to do.
Yeah.
Because obviously, there's very little skill involved.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really cook. But some people come in, they've got knowledge about food and all that. And 4 o'clock they start, and a Sikh place of worship, literally from about 5 o'clock in the morning until about 10 o'clock in the morning, you can go in. The only thing we ask, out of respect, is you cover your head. It's a tradition. Even I sometimes, I'm always asking, the senior, the elders. I'm quite old, I'm 67. I said, how did this tradition come around? Is it because we wear turbans that everybody else has to wear something on their head? And I had quite a nice explanation for this
teacher, elder.
It's a senior elder. Yeah. He said, no. He said basically, it's to signify we're all equal. He said nobody's different. Like in the old days, it was somebody's a king or a prince, and he had all these fancy garments, okay, and hence, and I sort of understood what he meant, and I agreed with it. Because the other thing, what we do, we all sit and eat on the floor, so nobody's higher than that. Yeah. So if you're a king, and there are lots of examples where where because obviously our Sikh gurus, we had 10 gurus, and India was dominated by the Mughal emperors. Okay, and initially it was just like a novelty, you know, these people, the Sikhs, whatever. But then, as people became more attracted to it, we became a threat to them. The Sikhs became a threat to them. So then they start fighting against killing us. And the whole faith involved, each guru, they gave us a guidance. It's quite interesting. It's, and I'm not exaggerating. So like it's obviously it's human nature, you know, to give the impression of what you believe is so perfect. But sometimes when you look at some of the concepts, you think, hang on, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, like our fifth guru, he was made to sit on a hot plate in the boiling sun. And they want him to convert, and he said no. He said every man should be free to choose what they believe.
Correct.
And then the next guru, he realised that, you know, this ain't, he ain't going to sort of work hard. You know, we've just been picked up and we've just been slaughtered. So he started this tradition called Miri Piri, and he said every Sikh had to be a saint and a soldier. Okay, you have to be a saint and a soldier, and what the saint means is all your actions have to be saintly. Okay. You help your colleague and so on, and obviously, Piri, you have to be like a soldier.
Right.
You know, if you see problems, you don't hide and run away.
That's why you carry the dagger now as well. That's part of that tradition.
He actually betrayed that tradition, and we started involving. So he started training all the Sikhs to become proper soldiers. And then we were confronting these Mughal emperors. And our ninth guru, he was it was predominantly Hindu in India, Hindu population. Okay, all the local kings and queens, this is a huge country. They approached him. They said, look, you know, is Aurangzeb, I think the emperor at that time, Aurangzeb, Akbar, there's quite a few. He bases that everybody has to be a Muslim or you can't live. He said, look, could you please come? Could you please do something, protect us? Okay. They were Hindus, they weren't him. And he said, well, look, he said there has to be a supreme sacrifice. In this. And his son, the 10th guru, who became a guru himself, he said, who's better placed than you, Father? Okay. Then he said to me, okay, go and tell Akbar that if you can convert me, that you'll all become Hindus. Okay. So he went down there with 3 of his close companions, and the first 3, one they burnt alive. They put cotton wool around him. The other one they put him against a spinning wheel. Okay, and they cut him to pieces. And they made him watch it. They thought, after watching 3 of his,
colleagues,
followers, and he said, "Will you convert?" He said, "No." And then they beheaded him. Okay, and one of the obviously they were at that time there were people who attached to the Sikh faith and other faiths. And one of the his name was Jeta. What he done, he picked up the head and the corpse, and he took the corpse to his house and he set his house on fire. Because we believe in cremation, okay? And he took the head
It's a different power dynamic.
To Guru Tegh Bahadur's young son, who was about 12 years old at the time. And he took the son, he said, look, this is his father's head. And the stewardship of the Guru passed on to him. And then he realised that this is not enough. A Sikh has to stand out. Because he asked him, he said, were there other Sikhs around? Did they do anything to help? Did they intervene? He said, well, we don't know. There were. Then he created a Khalsa Panth. And what that meant was that if you're true follower of Sikh, you look like this, so you can't hide. So you can't hide.
Okay.
Because he said it's a crime. It's a crime to inflict suffering to other people. It's even worse to watch it happen.
You're right.
Anyway, what I'm
Take
doing,
my flyer.
it's beautiful what you.
Thank you, man. Hi. Have you guys studied a bit of science?
Sorry?
Have you studied a bit of science?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah?
Have you ever found the surface of water to be curving? Or is it always fine level?
Yeah, it's fine even.
Level, yeah.
Yeah.
Not curving?
Sometimes when it's like stormy.
No, water. Okay, so water in a container should be, obviously water falling through the sky is going to take all sorts of shapes as it comes through the air.
Yeah.
But once it's in a bottle or a lake or whatever, is the water going to be, surface going to be level? Or is
It's
it
going to
going
be
to
level, isn't it?
Yeah. So we say that if that's the case over 1 mile or 10 miles or 100 miles, like the Suez Canal, which is 120 miles of level water, at what point is water meant to be curving such that we live on a sphere? And we found that you cannot find any bending. There is an optical effect when you look into the distance that the horizon crunches together and it squashes the ship, so it seems like it's gone over a horizon. But if you go higher up into a 10-story building, you'll see that same ship again, even though it's apparently gone over the horizon, and it still looks to be level, and you might even see a ship behind it, depending on how high you go. If you go in a plane, well, you can see ships for 20, 30, 40 miles off the coast, and it all looks to be level.
But then could you argue that we can't actually see that far? Because our human eye can't see
Yeah,
that
we
far.
used to argue that, and of course we're taught that when we're 6 years old, 7 years old. You can't see that there's curvature.
Yeah.
It's there. But good science requires measurement, and even if it's only off in the distance, there should be a little bit of curvature where I happen to stand, because if we're living on a sphere, we're living on a globe, then I should be able to travel from this part to another part and have noticed that I've gone partway around the globe. I fly to South Africa quite often, and it's 11 hours in the plane, 6,000 miles of distance, which is a quarter of the way around the globe. Therefore, my perpendicular has gone from here to here in the 11 hours. I wake up in the morning on the plane, and it's like, no, I'm now standing upright on the side of Africa, which is on the side of the globe, but my body doesn't know that, my drink didn't know that, the gyroscope doesn't know, spirit level doesn't know that. Everything, including the pilots, will tell you that we're flying level for 11 hours. If you go into the cockpit, as I have as a kid, you look forward, and as far as you can see, the next 5 minutes of distance of flying is 50 miles ahead of you. It's all level. And the next 5 minutes is level.
What about like astronauts in space then, when they see the Earth?
What a ridiculous.
Well, Sandra Bullock went to space.
Like 3D.
Yeah, so, okay. Well, I mean, it's possible that if this is true, right, then the astronauts, the whole NASA program is designed as a part of the deception, right? So is it possible that I could fake it in a studio? The Red Hot Chili Peppers sang, "Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement." And REM sang, "And if you believe we put a man on the moon." They are trying to tell us the truth, is that these things are done to fool us. Why? Because just like people lost faith in religion, they needed something else to control people. Religion used to control the minds of the people
How
in
do
the
you
main.
think that the Earth being round controls is like a way of
I've had a lot of time to think about it, but I would encourage you to think about it for yourself, because whatever answer I give you doesn't matter. But what I believe, having thought about it for 8 years now, is that it's designed to control your soul, is that we're in a soul trap, and that they don't want you to know that you are a higher essence, that there is something more to you than this material, Darwinian, evolved ape that has some consciousness, that we are actually the highest thing here, and our Earth was created for us to have an experience of. Now, I took DMT in 2015, which was a big part of my breakthrough or awakening, because I was an atheist. And once I took the DMT, I knew that there's a God of some description. I only use that name because people understand what I mean, but I don't think a man with a white beard sitting on a cloud kind of thing. But I believe that we all have a higher self. And we are simply, this avatar of 80 years or 100 years is just a small expression, a dream, if you like, that your higher self is experiencing. But your higher self came here with a mission, with a message, with an intention. And if I've misled you from being a child here, because I could put a child from Cambridge town, I could put them in a different community, in a different part of the world, where they would be raised to believe a completely different thing about who they are and what is normal. And that's all we've been given, is a version of who we are and what is normal and how a society should conduct itself. And so we play along with that game, but it's all a game. It's like a hologram or a simulation. And we've been tricked into making it all real, like this material world is real. But it's actually all electromagnetic. And we are the center of the electromagnet. In fact, you are an apple. In electromagnetic world, you are seen as an apple. And the physical avatar is really just the only bit of you that is material, but there is much more of you than this physical avatar. So I liken it for people like an apple. If you think about an apple, all of the fruit is water, but in the center of the apple is the seed. It's a place where new life can come. And I think that on this earth, the seed is the continents, and the water around us is the apple, the electromagnetic apple.
What's your motive for being here?
Pardon me?
What's your motive for being here?
To talk to you.
And then what? No, it's just a question.
I mean, I don't gain anything from it other than for... Yeah,
Thank you.
You really want to fly?
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Do you do it? Is your day job? Or you
No, I just do it for fun. I mean, I don't get paid to do it. So there are people on YouTube who pay me, give me money, because they are really keen on humanity waking up. See, because what happened since 2020 is a good example of how people, when they don't know themselves and who they are, will go along and believe whatever their master tells them. And that's what we saw in 2020. So people we go to war with other countries because people believe the bullshit they see on the TV. And once you realize that, wow, Russia and America and China are actually friends, keeping this live space travel and so on going, India now included, keeping this live space travel going, it means that there is a collusion at the very top table to steer mankind, to engineer your life. And that shouldn't be how it is that you should be the engineer of your life, and you should do that on the basis of as much good knowledge, because we are all seeking knowledge, but as much good knowledge as possible. But if at the table you're coming from, I've only been fed by the deceiver, how will you ever know the truth about who you are? And I think that it's imperative that when good men do something, then evil has less chance of prospering. And that's why I go out. But I think it's a beautiful story, actually. Once you get past the frightening stuff of, wow, even they've lied to us about even that. Because you are the center of creation.
I'm okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Earth is flat. Earth is flat. Earth is flat, man. Earth is flat. Would you like a flyer? Information? Earth is flat, folks. We've been lied to about who we are and where we live. They never went to the moon. International Space Station is fake. All TV. Propaganda. I'm thirsty. It's hot.
Yeah.
You know that we can't prove that water's curving over its surface, or that we're spinning. But we like to believe it, because we're in a big cult, a religion, that has us believing we evolved from apes, when in fact we are the creator expressing itself in a world it created for itself, not some scary habitat that dinosaurs got wiped out from. We live in an enclosed system. Thermodynamics demands that if you want a pressure system, you have to enclose it, like a deodorant can. The idea that water is running up the side of Africa, up a globe, is nonsense. It has to run downhill. Water will always run downhill. Light things float, heavy things fall in this medium. Change the medium to water, other things will float that henceforth could fall. That's gravity dealt with. We do not, because we can drop things from the table of your school teacher's desk when you're 7 years old, mean that we can walk underneath a ball. But you go on to university with that same ideology or dogma stuck in your mind. We're all in the same boat. I believed it all up until 8 years ago. Then, formula for curvature.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Simple.
It's all good. Thank you, though.
Earth is flat. Struggling with that. Oh, I already forgot to put a skirt on. It's, the move towards like Star Trek style attire is obviously, I'm sure, part of the social agenda. Stereotyping, homogenizing. Men wearing panty liners. Do you know some men wear panty liners now? I guess it's handy if they need to put one on their face in an emergency. Hi guys. I go around the country talking to people about the deception, probably the biggest one of, maybe the biggest one of all, and that is that the Earth is not a spinning rock in a vacuum. Things don't work in a vacuum. You know, we never put a spacesuit in a vacuum chamber to test it to go into space. Makes no sense.
Why would they lie about it?
To deny you who you are, deny the creator, it's glory.
Why not
I
say it's
suppose.
square, triangular? Why is it relevant?
Oh, well,
Is
I
it-
mean, I think there's an element of truth in it, because if you study quantum physics, you'll see that circles, and in nature, we see that spheres are normal.
Have you studied quantum physics?
Yes.
Okay.
And you see that spheres are normal.
Yeah.
An orange
It's a
apple.
common
is,
natural shape, right,
Absolutely.
okay.
But not once will you be able to cite me a fruit or anything living where the fruit is on the outside of the skin.
Okay.
All we're saying is that if it's an electromagnetic torus or electromagnetic sphere, oblate spheroid, we must be inside it rather than on the outside of it.
Okay.
And when you study quantum physics, you realize that there's only one place that you can compress light into matter,
Yeah.
and that's a
It's
black hole. And so how is it possible, other than if we're standing on a black hole, that we have matter, because I believe this is all matter, as Nikola Tesla said, this is all light, frequency and vibration. If it's all that, how do we get matter? Well, we have to crunch it through a black hole process. So either and or the mother, her womb, is a part of that process, that the father gives the light and the mother's womb does the compressing so that new life can come through this black hole. Or we're standing on a black hole in which vast amounts of energy are cycling and rising all the time and settling back down again and rising.
Going like that toroidal
way. Yeah. And so at the bottom of the apple, you get the butt of the apple. Well, that would be where the energy would be running into the apple.
Yeah.
And just like the hourglass, there at the compression point at the center is the seeds, which is the only solid part of the apple, interestingly enough. Everything else is water. But the seeds are solid.
So you're saying that an apple is a metaphor for that theory,
For-
or is
for the
actually a
Earth.
physical manifestation
Yeah.
of that principle? That's proof, in effect.
Well, that gives me natural evidence of that possibility that, well, what if we were a tiny mote inside of an orange and we were on the seed looking at the moisture of the wet bags around us, and we say,
Yeah.
wow, this is all atmosphere. Now, in our environment, there's a natural thing of heavy things settle, light things go up. So we have a line, we call it sea level, where we've got gas above it and water below, and the water gets more dense the lower you go, the gas gets lighter and thinner the higher you go. So in this mid-plane, which is also known as an accretion or creation disk, in quantum physics you can see this accretion occurring between two magnetic bowls. They call it the primer field experiments. You see this accretion of forming. Well, I think that could be where we sit. And on these two threes, it's the infinite 8 in between of that, at that pinch point, is that is this tiny place in the macrosphere that we stand on, and we call it continents.
Okay.
And so it's not like there's an edge, but I suspect that the conditions of our environment break down such that we can't travel through it.
Okay.
We've drilled 7.5 miles into the ground,
Yep.
and we may have only been to the Kármán line above.
So can you not fly a plane all the way around the world, or sail a ship all the way around the world, and kind of wind up back to where you
Yeah,
started?
yeah.
Is that an oversimplification? You can do that.
Yeah.
So if the Earth was a flat, you wouldn't be able to.
Oh no, well, no, because remember, if you have a flat with a centre like Cambridge Town, you can create one of these spires as your magnetic centre, and I can walk around Cambridge, east and west, no problem. What we've never done is we've never travelled south-north. We've never gone underneath the globe and come out 180 degrees on the other side. Never.
Is that true?
That's not recorded. You can welcome to go home and
Yeah,
Google
no,
that
I'm
and
not.
check this,
I
check it
simply
out.
don't know, mate.
But you know, I assumed all of these things, and then
Yeah.
I used to make the excuse, the conditions are not good enough, and that's why they can't fly there. But that was
It's
the
funny
excuse
they
that I
can have a
made.
treaty for Antarctica where
Right.
no one's allowed there, but people.
But
you know,
militaries
with
and
every
governments,
every
yeah.
other country. By the way,
Yeah.
I'm totally on the same page as you. I woke up to this quite a while ago, several years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, you can see plenty of videos. Pilots, if you've had with experienced pilots, say, yeah, it's flat.
Yeah.
We don't make any adjustments. We don't adjust the nose.
The nose.
I don't understand why. This is a lie that's obviously very important. Say it's a lie. Say you're right,
Yeah.
and I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't care. I don't literally know. I've got no interest in it. I just don't get why this would be such a complex and long-standing
Deception.
deception.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Well,
what
Look at this
the-
university here, you know.
Yeah.
All this-
Well, you see, I can see why people at institutions have got vested interests in, religion, and it's interesting because you've got what seems to be in your post is quite a strong religious narrative to a lot of it.
Yeah, although I'm not religious at all.
But to me, and I don't, I know nothing about this subject. To me, I can understand why religions, governments want to control people. They want to perpetuate lies. Why NASA, during the height of the Cold War, said, we went to the moon, we've got this treaty, we want all your tax money. I can understand why that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't understand there's been this thing of, we believed it was flat. That was the cultural zeitgeist, the scientific, religious zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Then some individuals came along and said, oh, no, we think we can prove it's not.
Yeah.
And then 500 years later, you've gone back saying, oh, no, we
Yeah.
were right all along.
Yeah.
I don't get why
It's still-
anybody
it's still-
would
the
use
ball-
that as a control mechanism.
It's still a theory, Ball Earth. It's not. There's no
No.
pictures. There's no pictures of it.
Well, exactly, because most people haven't been to space, right?
Well,
How
supposedly we've got a space station up there, but they don't. You know, there's no pictures of the Earth like from a distance.
Yeah.
So it's a rabbit hole, isn't it? There's lots of reasons you could say.
Lots of reasons. That I often say to people that it's because religion was losing its grip on control of the people.
Yeah.
Initially it was kings, then it was religion,
Yeah.
and they lost that, so they came up with a science that diminished the possibility that you were as important as the Pope or the king. Because this is what this does, is that it puts
It's a new
everybody
religion.
on,
It's a religion.
on the same plane.
Well, I say science has always been a religion because we're inspired by a minority as a majority to unquestioningly believe what they tell us and to become the sheeple. I get that. So I'm fully on board that science is only ever as good as the state of the art.
Yeah.
And what we knew 5-10 years ago is now proved. And I get that is science. That's the science of science.
Well,
But it's-
unfortunately, science, because it's the Royal Institution of Science, and it's controlled by the powerful and the people who give us
Yeah.
our education system, if there's something happening in science that they don't like,
They've
like
got
we
full
saw it in the
control over it,
last
of course.
3 years,
Of course.
doctors were sidelined. If they said anything other than the party line, they were out.
Of course.
And so in the science community, there were scientists saying before the moon landings, laughing, saying, no, it won't land on the moon, it's a
Yeah.
plasma.
Yeah.
And then, of course, once it happened, they were silenced by that supposed fact. So is it possible is it possible that that these things have been done all along to maintain a control, and they create a scientific community in which they then lead or fund
Yeah.
the leading of theories?
Yeah, I get and I fully accept that. I still can't get my head around why they would go, right, let's just say, for example, that you're all on a ball spinning through space, gravity is a thing, blah, 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 and that will help us. They could have said, right, it's square, and there's all these little fucking pink teddy bears in space, and I mean, because at that time, right, anyone would have probably believed, like you say, they were completely like sort of religious, non-scientific.
I agree with what you said. It's a religion. They've created a religion.
They have,
And
yeah,
if
very
you,
much.
If you
yeah.
step outside of the religion and question it, then you're the idiot.
Oh,
you're
of
the
course,
fool.
you're the. Oh,
I mean, I've been
absolutely,
insulted so many times.
Oh,
Me too.
seriously.
You know, people are like, oh, you're a moron, blah, blah, blah.
My family have sidelined me.
It's like you say with the pandemic, isn't it? If you're the one that doesn't have your vaccine, doesn't wear your mask, doesn't agree with it, you are immediately
You're a
marginalised.
moron.
Exactly.
You're not educated. It's
Virgin
like, hang on a minute,
Atlantic
I've got a
bargained
degree,
for
I've
life.
been at university, I am educated. I used to think it was a ball. I went through the education system, and then I've come out of it and gone, no, it's not. And I've looked into loads of stuff.
But I suppose the more you're in education, they're teaching you like what to think, not how to think, right? I mean, you can come to an institution like this and be entrenched in that, but the deeper you go into that, and the more clever and learned you become, the more
doctored.
fucking,
the more
that's the
doctored you
thing,
become.
right? Exactly.
Because doctoring your financial reports, everyone knows what that means. Well, if I doctor you and you become a doctor, who owns you? Me.
Well, this
I
is
doctor
this is
you.
all Masonic as well. You see, the people who came up with this ball concept, was it Copernicus? And these people, they're all Masons, like Newton. So,
Yes.
and this is the people that have taken over these. This isn't the university took over all of this stuff. This is all Tartarian. It's not the original buildings.
Have
You
you-
can
oh,
see
you-
it's buried. You can see the windows are buried.
Buried, yeah. You've done your research.
Yeah, this is the people have moved in, come up with this concept, wiped
A new
away
God.
all the old stuff, and gone right. This come on, everyone. And if you step outside of that, then immediately you're like a lunatic.
But you do see that in town as Cambridge. Coming as
Some
an
information
uneducated
for you?
outsider to
You know that water's always
in the
level?
last few years, like post
When at risk?
you do notice that. You really do notice it. It's a very small echo chamber of academia. And any not only dissent but any questioning of
just
these
Cambridge.
it's
Everywhere.
I mean I'm not well travelled, so I can't.
No, I mean, even I used to live in Windsor. Like, you know, I'd be down the gym, and then when all this pandemic crap started coming out, I was like, hang on a minute, and they're like, oh, you must be an idiot. And there's some guys telling me, and I'm saying about the pharmaceutical industry and about so-called isn't a vaccine. I was like, and he's calling me an idiot. And I'm like, well, you're going to find out. This was just before it all happened, and then where are we now? It's okay, 3 years later, and I
Died
mean,
suddenly.
most people, died suddenly. Most people who've got some awareness know that it's fishy.
Fishy.
I mean, I'm saying, I'm trying to be
You're
like.
being very diplomatic on
I mean,
that.
obviously, it's all a load of bollocks.
So we
you know?
are basically in a farm. We've been put on a farm, and the farmers are pushing us here and pushing us there, but they don't want you to know you're being farmed. And so it's could just simply be about
just enough of
controlling
what
you.
you want to keep you manageable.
Absolutely, and have a nice middle class barrier just to protect the kind of people on top, and then the wealthy people on top.
Reinforce that, and that's fine.
You're
doing well. You're fine.
But all roads may lead to Rome, and even the first globe comes out of the Vatican neighborhood.
Yeah,
The Big Bang Theory comes out of a Catholic priest's mouth.
Okay.
George Lemaitre. He's also a Jesuit. And so we see the same fingerprints on these great ideas and theories. And then you start to say, hold on a minute, if these are just theories, and I cannot measure curvature, and I cannot measure spin. And what I was going to say to you about science is that for 30 years, from 1880, 1890, on to about 1910, 1915, the best science minds in the world were conducting thousands of interferometer experiments to prove that the Earth was spinning, and they couldn't. And so they kind of sidelined that. Same with George Airy. He was the astronomer royal in the 1800s, mid-1800s. He came up with what's now known as Airy's failure because it failed to prove, his experiment failed to prove that it was the Earth that seemed like the stars were moving. So science does that. I mean, Piltdown Man is another example. For 100 years they kept that lie going. And then the coelacanth or the coelacanth fish, they say, it's gone extinct 350 million years ago. Down in Durban, South Africa, where I'm from. And it's like, it looks exactly the same as 350 million years ago. Where's the evolution gone?
It's all made up. It's all completely made up.
Absolutely. So why? It can't just simply be to make you a good tax slave, to get you to pay for wars, to go to Russia.
This is the thing. Why?
I mean, it's a big question because really it's a complete construct. It's like an energetic construct. It's a bit like, you could also look at it like the Truman Show. So they've created a Truman Show for us all to live in, with everything's just completely made up. Everything. Every single history book, every single scientific book, it's all utter nonsense. But that's so big for most people to be able to comprehend because they're like, well, how can that?
Oh yeah, it's an inside belief system, isn't it?
Yes.
But they've done it because they can farm us. They want our energy in the end. It's like the Matrix, the movie. There's an intelligence, not human intelligence that's harvesting our energy. So ultimately, that's what it's all about. But then it gets. I mean, that's like David Icke. If you look at David Icke's, but it seems so fantastic. But that's probably one of the things that's going to happen soon. There's going to be some fake alien invasion. It's all lining up for
Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's all then. Yeah, so they're going to be lining it all up to,
Yes.
But if they're already here, the aliens have been here, for millennia already.
I don't like that. We've only just met. I love having the conversation about it. I don't like that idea. I like the idea that we're all equal rather than
We're sort of alien as well.
Well, that's
our DNA is alien, so we share the DNA with some of these invaders for various reasons.
Yeah. I put DNA on the subject of I can't see that for myself. I have to take that at face value, the DNA stuff.
If you do like
But
more,
then it does seem like that there is without doubt, there is some dark intention here. So if I've got dark intention and I'm secretly coming between you and your partner, or I'm secretly coming between you and your business or whatever, you'd want me to come and say, you'd want someone else to come and say, hey, listen, he's actually acting against you. You think he's on your side, but he's not. And you, but why? We play golf together. We have a good time. I thought we were equal. No. He wants something from you, whether it's your business or whatever. And that's what they want. And so when I took the DMT in 2015, the ayahuasca,
that's what worked well.
I was an atheist.
Okay.
And 7 minutes later, my first words were, it's true, there's a God. That's why I was 47 already. And I'm like...
that's a very constant, I mean, again, I know nothing about this, but sort of circumstantially, you hear that's a very constant theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
That there's an enlightenment, there's an awakening of people that indulge in
I agree
this.
with you.
When you leave,
it's like, it is a genuine spiritual experience.
Yeah. And when you leave, you know this. But I think you're meant to know this in this time. Otherwise, why would I be lying to you? I wouldn't need to deceive you if it didn't matter if you knew that truth about who we are. But that's where I'm at 8 years in of initially flat Earth and then like why?
It's strange because this seems to be the line in the sand for most people.
Yeah.
And I have debate, and the people kind of the New World Order, this was fake, that was fake. But I think most people, you probably see it more than anyone, it's that this is just we're just not going to fucking even engage with this. This is just too much.
What, the
flat Earth?
Really?
Yeah. In my experience,
I had a lady, a bloke that identifies as a lady, come by earlier on and said, "I know the moon lands are fake, but this flat Earth, no."
Exactly. It's strange. Right. It's strange.
It is strange.
But nobody can really put their finger on it. I sort of ask people, and they go like, "Well, it's just bollocks, isn't it?"
It's you fall
it can't be. You fall exactly that. Yeah. You know, if everyone walked on one side, it fucking tilts.
It's funny the flat Earth map. If you go and look at the United Nations
logo
flag, it's that.
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is use a bit of imagination. When I've had multiple awakenings, but when I realised about the globe, and you just project it onto a globe, it's that. The ice ball becomes the South Pole, and then it just stretches up, and you go, why is it on the United Nations flag as with a 33 line, so 33 degrees, with a sight in the middle, so targeting us. Yeah. It's,
Absolutely.
And it's right in the front of our face.
Agenda 22. In the real world, all along, they're faking the global warming or global boiling or whatever.
That's all nonsense.
And so they excuse 15-minute cities and locking you down, and because we see climate lockdowns coming.
It'll be the next big one. Will be
and we're already paying hand over fist for carbon tax.
Well, it takes the air you breathe. It takes food to eat, water you drink, the air you breathe, right? I mean,
it's actually the typical satanic mindset is they flip it. So actually CO2 is brilliant for plants. We want more CO2. So they flip it and say, we want less, and then it's actually killing us off.
We're destroying all the plants as well, right?
Creating the plants and us, because we eat the plants, or the things we eat the plants. But it's typical satanic, flip everything upside down. This is brilliant you're here, mate. I think this is awesome. I've never seen this in Cambridge.
This is last year.
I came here last year. Yeah.
This is cheered me up no end. I was walking around going, God, I'm fucking sick of everyone being this. I couldn't be helpful for you.
Good. I lost my bigger YouTube channel because I was talking too much about COVID.
You got deplatformed, you got shut down.
They chucked it, and so I had to start again.
I mean, dangerous, that, isn't it?
It is. You're not allowed to express opinions.
Freedom of speech.
People are happy with that. Why is it that the government need to censor flat Earth conversations? Because the flat Earth subjects are deplatformed, and anyone who's against flat Earth, they get millions of views. Why is that? Why do you need the government's help to think about this? When the truth is that we can observe the world around us to be not moving, and the sea to be level, or the waters to be level. We can measure this. But they're using your optical tricks to say, well, either you're too small, so you don't notice it's spinning or curving or all of this sort of thing. Hello, ma'am. Have a nice day. So there's a lot of trickery, and it's all designed to trick you so that you give away your power. Like people put on the face nappy in 2020, they gave their power away. No one was standing over them with a gun. Actually, a mandate is an offer, and if you accept the mandate, then you're on board. you know. And this is why people do this, is because they do not know who they are. And if you knew that you were meant to be the master, and that Tony Blair or you Tony Blair or all of these people are not your master, and that we've govern the mental, control the mental, our power, then we.
Oh, as soon as you say Tony Blair, that's it.
Tony B. Liar.
Any of them, who cares?
I believed him though, in the weapons of mass destruction 45 minutes claim. I believed back then. I was still a believer in the media.
There's some people you can look at, like George Bush Jr. and Tony Blair. You can look at them and go, these people, they're not fucking normal.
Yeah.
Like these people couldn't lie straight in bed. They are sociopaths, psychopaths.
Yeah.
Blair was one of them.
Yeah. We live in a world of psychopathy, but remember, if I injure puppies, if I got 10 puppies in a cage and I hurt them and I starve them, how are they going to be as adults? Well, what if we've all been hurt and starved in some way along this route, which has altered us? So from that, you get a psychopathy.
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome, and what's it, the Philadelphia experiment?
Oh,
where
you
shock people. You can basically think that you're killing them. Yeah. I went to war as a kid at 19 years old in Angola because I believed the propaganda. Yes, the law said I had to do 2 years national service, but I believed the communist.
You do it as an individual, it's murder, right?
Yeah. But we were in tanks and we were hard up against. I gave Prince Harry a copy of my book. That was in 2014, before I knew about 9/11, before I knew about that there's something else going on here. It's not what it seems on the media, that the BBC is all designed for brainwashing, British Brainwashing Corporation. That's what it's designed for. And social media, it's controlled such that you see things that take you along a particular
news,
journey.
north, east, west, south.
Yes,
that one.
yes.
So they just...
Have you heard of conspiracy music gurus?
Yeah, I've heard of, is it Mark Devlin?
Mark Devlin.
Yeah, I've read his books about the music industry.
Right,
I've done a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
research into that area.
Yeah.
That's all controlled as well.
I was talking about a guy called Alex Michael. He's a musician who's made a lot of stuff on truth and flat earth and so on.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Conspiracy music guru. You know, even our music is altered to 432 hertz rather than 440 hertz, which is more pleasant for the body to receive, because you're an electromagnetic structure. So we know that with a certain sound, a siren or whatever, or bring that near, you'll actually cower in pain from that. Well, our music was altered by 8 hertz to 440 hertz, what they call the devil's interval.
It's the Nazis did it.
Yeah, the Nazis started, I believe. But so all the instruments are played in that.
A lot of our Bluetooth, like garage doors, car alarms, it's all on the 430, 440 hertz.
Right.
Spectrum.
So it's all,
that is a lot of
it's all harmful. Yeah, it's all harmful background radiation that's interfering with our good health, our well-being.
They want us in fear. That's what they want.
Yes. I've got a question over here from this gentleman in the hat.
Treated me up now.
Would you like some information?
No.
No?
You mentioned radiation sources.
Yes.
I'm concerned about radiation. We're in a very sunny climate today.
Very
sunny climate today. Lots of radiation around.
from the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're holding a radiation source
I
quite
am.
close
I
to
am.
you.
I am.
And you're standing next to a radiation source with the stone.
The stone. Very little though. Natural radiation. Yeah.
There's no distinction really. It's just physical.
Or radiation. So no radiation is harmful.
I didn't say that at all.
Okay. No, because I think that we can handle radiation, but there's just some radiation that is not so good for you. Microwave is an example of that.
In certain contexts.
Yeah, I think that microwaves, being around a microwave and cooking in microwaves, for example, is harmful to the food and you. Earth is flat, not a spinning rock. We've been lied to about space travel. You know, they've never put a man in a vacuum chamber, in a spacesuit, never? You'd think they'd want to test that in a vacuum chamber.
I've literally been in one myself.
You've been in a vacuum chamber?
Yes.
But not while it was powered up, right?
Yes.
What level of vacuum were you in?
-3 tall.
Okay.
Roughing tall.
And you could still breathe?
Of course.
Normally?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the vacuum of space?
Usually -10, isn't it?
I thought it was 23, but I might be wrong. -23 tall. Because I heard that the vacuum they can create in the NASA vacuum chamber is -6.
So that's quite high pressure.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. But they
You
can't
can
get a
breathe
man.
in it. You can breathe in it.
You couldn't.
No, so you die.
But but if we're going to put a man in a vacuum of space, then you want to test that suit in a vacuum, right?
Yes.
We've never done that.
Yes, we have.
Can you point me to any evidence that I can find?
Yes. It's quite sort of.
Can you cite any now?
Well, it's not my exact specialism, but I am a material scientist. I work here, and we work in the vacuum testing of
Oh,
materials.
okay. Well, I
and
find that.
welds
Yeah.
and
Well, I find that fascinating.
I mean, really, just working out how hard it is to do that. What you're suggesting are several order of magnitude harder. We couldn't even coordinate
Yeah.
what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
The easiest solutions are often the better.
So you've been in a walk-in vacuum chamber. Was it steel?
Yes. Oh, I was clad with, had an anechoic chamber as well. Yeah.
But we know that if we created a vacuum in like a, I've seen it done with a rail car, where you've probably seen that video where it crunches in on itself in a split second.
Mm-hmm.
That's under a vacuum, and that's a rail car made of steel.
It's not designed to be
A vacuum chamber. I agree. But what we are saying to people is that if we have a vacuum of space, we have to have a fixed firm barrier. That we know from of material, not gas, material, because we can't demonstrate on Earth how we can create a vacuum within a gas. We have to create the vacuum within a chamber. And that chamber has to have a certain rating of strength depending on the, what do you say, -3 torr in your case.
Yep.
What is 0 torr? Is that what we're in now? Is that 1?
Roughly, I think so. I can never remember the conversion between torr and bar. But the device that are you recording me, by the way?
Yeah, I'm live on YouTube.
Right, all right. I didn't give permission for it.
You don't have to. You know we're in public. A member of the public doesn't have to see.
Actually, no, you're on university property here.
Really?
Yep.
How's that?
Property boundary comes a little bit further from
So you
beyond
mean
that.
in order to walk through here, I have to walk on this pavement?
Well, no.
So it's public way.
The device that you're holding,
Yeah.
the device that you're holding was made with vacuum chambers. We couldn't make the materials. We couldn't grow the films of the chips without vacuum.
Yeah. I don't argue that you can create a vacuum. I use a vacuum cleaner at home. So I think that vacuums are real. But I also know that vacuum cleaner and any vacuum must be in a container. It must be contained.
It's resisting the pressure.
Yeah, well, there's an outward pressure, isn't there? Because if I punctured that, there would be equalization. But in this reality, they tell us that we don't need that. In this physical reality, those laws...
Who is telling you what and what
Well,
don't we need?
anyone who proposes that we live on a spinning globe with an atmosphere connected to a vacuum.
It's a much more simple system rather than having a disk. We have all sorts of differentials and things.
This is not how we see the Earth. If we're talking about flat
How
Earth,
do you
we're talking
see
about
it?
electromagnetic torus.
Ah, right. Oh, I've had comments like that from people. Are you part of the people with the perturbation mantle?
Perturbation of the ether.
No, you have the annulus above the north and south poles.
No, I'm not aware
I get
of that.
them sent in quite a
Oh,
lot.
okay. Well,
and
no.
it's remarkable that the person came up with the theory which had the first letters of the theory spelled out his name, which he thought had some cosmological significance.
Oh, right. No, I'm not aware of that. But it's electromagnetic, and there's an accretion disk. Have you seen the primer field experiments? The primer field experiment, David Point, really worth looking at, because you can create a creation disk or an accretion disk between two magnetic poles inside an electric chamber, inside of a gas chamber.
What do people get to gain from calling it a globe? What's the benefit?
Make us insignificant, rather than this.
So you feel put down?
I don't feel put down. I think that we're all, remember, I don't see me as unique. I think that we're all in this together. It's just that most people are, like the flock, just following what we've been taught. So I think that it's actually about diminishing God's
flying
creation.
against the flock.
I'm flying against the tide, yes.
What if the globe is God's creation?
Well, it would be an electromagnetic globe, yes. But in nature, if we look at God's creation, in nature, God shows us that every fruit, every plant, every living thing has a skin, a bark, a peel, a shell. Everything.
Boundary.
Except the globe. So I say we live inside the fruit, not on the outside of the fruit, which is what the globe is.
So we live inside a globe.
It's an electromagnetic torus, right? You understand what that is, obviously. You know
But
what
a torus is not a globe.
It's an oblate spheroid.
In certain respects.
Yes. So which is what they try and tell us in science class today. It's an oblate spheroid. So we think that it is, I think it's an oblate spheroid possibly. We can see these electromagnetic shapes forming up. When you look at nature, the watermelon and the pumpkin and all of these sorts of things, you see the same shape. So why not we, micro and macro, that we could be the seeds inside the fruit rather than seeds hanging on the outside of the fruit?
Whatever floats your boat.
Have a nice day. Well, water generally, and it's flat. The water. See, if I want to go down in a series of locks down a mountain, yes, I understand that. But any scale you like, any scale that we can measure,
Certainly not.
water is level.
No, it's not.
So what's your can you again cite me an example of where?
A droplet of water.
But moving through the atmosphere.
You said it's on scale.
The droplet of water is a sphere. Okay. Painful. Painful. Earth is flat. Earth is flat, guys. No? Yes? So, food for thought, man.
Food for thought, yeah. Appreciate you, your time. I say I don't agree, or I don't even understand a lot of what you're saying, to be honest. But it's the.
That's all right. Well, I try
I like the way you're not jumping up and down as well. No. Seriously, you have. This is my opinion. This is what I think. I believe in this. Perhaps you know, have a look at it, have a think. Because it's. So I think it's considered a pretty extreme viewpoint.
It is. It's but I'm resigned to this idea that the majority must be deceived. I wish it was somewhere else. In 2015, I thought within 6 months of me telling my friends, in fact, the world will know. It's coming out. It's on YouTube, and it's coming out. It's coming out. The world will know. But by the end of 2016, the whole world will know. Now I see after 2020 that the majority will and must be deceived. But I do this because I know that every now and again I'm going to rub up against somebody, either like that other gentleman now, he's going to go home feeling a lot better about his position.
I think you made his day, yeah.
Yeah. Or there's some people, I've even had young people, school-age children, run away in happiness, going, I thought it, I was sure, but I was being forced to believe that we're on the outside of the globe and gravity is doing all of this magic. So just to give them that kind of nudge for life is of value to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know that the majority must be tricked.
Well, you just accept that's the way of things. That's the way that.
Not that I'm wanting it for it to be that way, but there's even a biblical verse that Matthew 24, that I like to quote, Matthew 24, that even amongst the elect, the majority will be deceived at the end of times. So it will be that we're living in some sort of end phase, and that chap mentioned about Tartaria. I've been studying this subject for 6-7 years. The first time I came to Cambridge was 2018, and I was walking around here looking at all these buildings that have got windows at street level and below the street level. And since then, whenever I go to buildings or places, I look downstairs, I try and get into the basement, and you see 2-3 floor stories in the ground. In Rome, and all over the world, you can go to places, and there's so much construction under the ground. And we're told that that's just a cultural layer, and people threw their cans down on the floor, and we gave up the ground floor and moved upstairs. No, we got flooded. This place, the world gets flooded every 500, 400 years, something like that. And they don't want us knowing this truth, because if we knew that, we wouldn't want to go to work for all of our active life. We would say, hey, let's travel, let's go and see the world, let's explore, let's grow, rather than being slaves in the system. So I think that what the point of that was that I think there's going to be another event that we would see as a cataclysm.
Would you think that the climate crisis narrative is somehow part of that?
Maybe.
The acceptance that it's like, okay, so let's presume that you're right and that that happens, and the powers that be, okay, this is happening, we can't deny this. We don't want our slaves to revolt. Let's just go, oh no, this is your problem, this is something you created the problem. Us as governments, we've got the answers. You just have to do more shit that we tell you to.
Yes. And we're going to limit you right down. They're trying to get people over the next 40 years or whatever, 20, 30 or 40 years, squashed into these suburban, urban...
massive urban conurbations.
Yeah. Now...
Yeah, you can see that going on. I don't dispute that.
To what end does it suit their narrative for when some event happens, that they're either able to remove a whole lot of the population at one time, or it allows for their system to continue beyond that event? I have to keep these things all on the table. The idea that mankind is overpopulating the earth is something that the elites talk about, good.
But they could do that, right? They could do like with a pandemic. If the pandemic was a serious pandemic, they could have literally killed half, 3/4, 90% at will, right? I mean, they could if they wanted to, couldn't they? So is it not balanced? We need the population to generate money.
Yes,
and so this is the thing, isn't it? And
That's
this is
why
the thing
they
with the
want
COVID never rang true to me, because people are just ill enough to be a bit frightened. Still, as we say, it might kill your kids.
Yeah.
But really, it's a fucking non-issue to most people in most ways. So it's, that I think, again, that's very obvious to most people now looking back. I mean, I talk to a lot of people and they kind of say, I think that was an overreaction, it was draconian, it was uncalled for, blah, blah, blah.
Overreaction, yeah.
To say the least.
Rather than a
But I think it
event.
was obvious that was always a human control mechanism.
Yes.
And again, government, one thing the government aren't interested in is in your well-being.
Yeah.
Decades of underfunding of the NHS. You're allowed to smoke. You're allowed to. I mean, come on. The government do not give a fuck whether you live or die. They just want you to be ill, a bit frightened, on drugs, and paying tax.
Their drugs rather than
of course.
natural medicines. They've pushed natural medicines
absolutely.
increasingly out.
Again, because it's marginalised, it's ridiculed. You're a bit of a crackpot. You're a bit of a
quackery to use plants as your medicine.
Exactly.
And of course, we know that. So no, I think I know you've got to go for lunch, but I think that they don't want us having the truth about who we are. For me, even if there is an end times flood, we think it might come out of the ether the next time. The air, the metal might be the thing that switches. If there is that, I say to people and my children and my wife, it doesn't matter. Let's not fear that outcome, because if it happens, it'll happen instantly, and we won't know about it. We'll immediately be back in our higher selves. So the question is, will you have done the work by the time the starting gun goes? Or are you going to be prepared? And I don't mean like a prepper that you've got all the water and stuff, which is not a bad idea to have some rice and water, but at the same time, have you done the soul work, the inner journey? Because they want us looking out to Mars, out there, outer space, Elon Musk, all of that sort of bullshit that's outside of us, rather than you are the reason. Everything centers on you, and the labyrinth is to heal yourself from the wounding that you've received, and maybe have a better life or a better light in this life experience.
Amen to that. I won't shake your hand, mate. I don't touch people. It's a mental illness. I told you that last year.
Okay.
And then I tried to get interviewed by the BBC guys that were following you around.
All right.
So I had an interesting chat with the cameraman that was doing that. But it's like I say. I mean, it's just learning curve, isn't it? It's just. But I appreciate the way that you just present it in a. You're not jumping up and down, screaming and shouting, saying, I'm right, I've got all the answers. It's just, this is what we think. This is what we think we can prove. Have a look. So I won't take a thing, mate. It'll just end up in the car with all the other cards and bits and pieces.
You guys have a great life.
So thanks for your time.
I hope you're back.
Keep up the good
All
work.
the best. Cheers. Are we running out of I might have to say goodbye. See you soon.